We're a year on
Yep.
from him being appointed. It's plain to see he's underachieving. Is he making the right noises this morning?
Well, I think it's an inevitable set of noises. Of course, it's his responsibility. He's the manager. That's what he's been brought in to do, to build a successful team.
Right.
If the business was losing money, it would be Stan Kroenke's responsibility. Now, the notion that he defends his players is a public domain perspective. I probably would imagine, if he's being entirely honest, he thinks some of his players are letting him down. But he's not going to carry that into the public domain for the delectation of the media, because that will give him a certain relationship with his players that apparently in this day and age you can't have. You can only tell players good news. Listen, he isn't. I've been very supportive of him, and people have rightly said there's an element of hypocrisy about my lack of value on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and yet my support of Arteta. And it's
so they've been right in saying that?
Well, to an extent, they're proving to be right, because I'm sitting here watching a group of players that aren't responding to this manager. I don't think the players are good enough, but some of those players have been bought by him, not all of them, and people will constantly give you the notion that until you get your own group of players around you, you can't really be judged by it. And there is an element of truth in that, but you're also in there to make a difference, and it's part of your responsibility to advance players and get them to where you want them to be. And what you're seeing from players, when you see press conferences afterwards where Arteta talks about the nature of how that team, they didn't deserve to win against Everton. And when he talks about this game in conjunction with other games and conflates them and says that in previous games, as well as this game, we've deserved to win, we've been the better side, you start to lose credibility. I do think he is a coach, and a significant coach in the making, but I'm beginning to question whether the timing of this project for him at Arsenal is too big for him, because Arsenal is a club that is in a state of flux. I've never understood the logic, and people can probably debate this, where you take players from other clubs that aren't considered to be good enough for those clubs, people that you're rivaled, like Chelsea and David Luiz and William, you put them in your side and you expect to do better than the sides that didn't want these particular players.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
Well, obviously you would look to improve players, and what one person sees, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But I look at Arsenal. Do I think Arsenal will get relegated? No, I don't. Are Arsenal doing well in the Europa League? Yes, they are. They're in a League Cup quarter-final. Have some of their players gone off the boil? Yeah. Is the overarching message, meaning sometimes in life you have to take one step back to take two steps forward? I've got a sense of feeling that Arteta has the ability to embrace, whether he can weather this storm, whether his ownership will support him in this. I get the feeling, just from the body language of this individual, that he can take one step back to take two steps forward. I've never felt the same about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. That's why I have a different viewpoint about it.
Okay.
But it is beginning to become challenging for him.
Now, Gary, when Alan Shearer on Saturday night says to Lineker, are they going to stay up? And he says, I wouldn't be so sure. Not with that starting team, not with the attitude of some of those players. No. Then you begin to think, aye, there's something in this, don't you? When they're talking about it at that level. Can I put you in the spot? At Liverpool, has anybody been talking much about what the heck's going on at Arsenal?
Not really. I think as staff in the under 23s, we sit in the office and we talk about football a lot. That's what we do. We sit there, the Sky Sports News is on, we're getting our work done, but we are talking about what's going on at Everton and Man United and Arsenal. And I don't see Arsenal being relegated. I can't see it at all. So I wouldn't agree with Alan Shearer on that.
But it's going backwards, isn't it?
It is going backwards.
1-4 and 14.
And similarly to Simon, I was a big fan of the appointment. I was like, I think Arsenal's a long project. It's a long-term project. It wasn't going to be a quick fix, and they went for a manager that would take that journey with them, and I felt that it would work well. I think they've let themselves down recruitment-wise. I remember watching David Luiz struggle terribly when we came back from lockdown, a game at Manchester City where he came on, and then it came out 3 days later that they'd offered him a new deal, and I'm thinking, but that's fine. David Luiz is apparently a great guy. He's good in the dressing room. I hear all this stuff from inside. But is he going to take Arsenal forward? Have you not learnt that he's not the type of centre-half you need at the moment. You need someone that's going to lead. You need someone that's reliable, that's consistent, that's going to help you keep clean sheets. So by no means having a pop at David Luiz. He's had a career that far outweighs anything I managed to achieve. He's been a fantastic
wrong
footballer.
player at wrong time.
I was just extremely surprised. And when I saw things like that, and then as Simon says, when you take Willian out of Chelsea, and Chelsea weren't desperate to keep him, and then I look at it now and I just think recruitment let them down before Arteta got there. And I'm not sure he's improved it that much since he's been there. I think recruitment has been a real issue for them. And And I now think they're going to suffer more months of pain than they would have if they'd have got their recruitment right over the last window or so. So,
what, you think it's going to get worse?
No, I don't think it's going to get worse, but it's not going to get better as quickly as I thought it would. I thought Arteta would go in and the journey would be a slow one, but I thought they would constantly climb. I didn't see them going through the spell that they're going through now. So I think it's a tricky time for him. I think Simon's right. I think he will be a good manager and a good coach, but he is in a really tough spot, and you just hope, as a young coach myself, I hope that he can get through the short-term issues to give him the chance to succeed long-term at the club, because I think he will be a good manager.
I mean, you think of Arteta, and I agree with you, Simon, when he came in. I was talking to him at Goodison the same day that he took over at Arsenal, when they were up on the same day Ancelotti took over. That's another story altogether.
Sure.
And you think, fair enough, Steve Round's there, good man, vast experience. So it's got to be the players.
Oh, of course.
What are they doing?
Of course, it's the players.
What are they doing?
Of course, it's always the players in the end, because despite Troy talking about the fact that Troy Tini this morning talking about managers at Watford, ultimately it's managers that get players the sack. But it's also, more importantly, and to contradict that,
it's players that get managers the sack.
Yeah, it's actually managers. Yeah, sorry if I misspoke. It's actually managers and the way that they handle these players. It's a manager's job to get more from. And if you look at the analysis of what Pepe was doing on Saturday by Alan Shearer about how he doesn't get in the box, how he's strolling about with a certain mentality, then surely if a match of the day pundit can see that, and so can all the technology around Arsenal to look at these players and what they're doing. His message isn't being received, and I thought it was brilliant this morning. Kevin Campbell came on the breakfast show and said, and the answer is not Ozil, despite that particular scenario being brought out of the ether, because Arsenal Football Club is bigger than Mesut Ozil. They've made a decision that they don't want to play him. Various managers have made a decision. It's not about money, because they're still paying him his £2 million bonus, loyalty bonus, which is a ridiculous contradiction in terms. And here we are. It's about a bigger picture. And sometimes you have to have the courage of your convictions. And if we only judge people in success, then ultimately, we are very one-dimensional, because out of adversity comes character. And if he can come through this, Arteta, and Edu came out last week and said he's going to back him, then you might yet find that Arsenal become a far better football club for having the courage of the conviction to stick to Arteta and not to back down to nonsense like bringing Ozil back into the fold.
So they should stick with him for the time being.
I think it's becoming more difficult to do so. It's not really backing up. I think the results in front of us are looking, and the team's performance is getting worse and worse and worse, and the conviction from the players is getting less and less and less. But I believe that you still have enough reason, just about, to keep patronising Arteta for a period longer.
Okay. For sure, he's up against it at the moment, though. Coming up to 11:30.